Well then, as monarch of the Empire of Damia, I am Adam I to hereby declare this the 68th meeting of the ruling council into effect on today, the 28th of October 2017. The agenda for the meeting is as follows: Treasury and economic reports for the 2016-17 financial year, Decree 52, Act 42, and the plenary dissolution of the 5th Legislature. Are there any amendments the members here would like to make to the agenda before we begin? Seeing that there are none, we move to the first point, Treasury and economic reports, which I'll try to keep brief as I'm aware of the time constraints on us. This report was issued shortly after our last meeting with the end of the financial year on the 30th of September. I can report that the current total government assets we have assessed, we have £40.32 in cash. We also have various other assets such as our flag, which was valued at £25, the tent owned by the military valued at £30, the quadcopter owned by the Air Force valued at £26, shares in all three of the government's owned companies, the Adamic Online Broadcasting, the Adamic Express and Imperial Mail, all 100% shares, valued in total to £22. That comes from the value of Adamic Online Broadcasting's tripod. The inventory of the Adamic Imperial Space Agency, which was valued at £23, and the Populous Imperial Monument from there, which was valued at £8. That came to a total of £177.92 worth of government assets, although of course only the £40.32 of cash is assets that we will describe as liquid. Just going to the cash side of things a bit more, the Treasury financial statements. We started the year with £85. Income came to £50.32. £95 of expenses. That gave us a budget deficit of £44.68, taking us down from about £85 to our current total £40.32. That is a deficit of 52.56% of the balance of the start of the year. I won't go into the month-by-month breakdown, but if anyone wants to read that, that is also in the report. You'll note the budget deficit is something unusual. We haven't run a budget deficit before until this year, but it was a deliberate decision that we took in drafting last year's budget. Year on year, the budget, the Treasury balance had been growing increasingly, and we were having larger and larger reserves of unspent money, so the decision to run a budget deficit was deliberate and to bring our amount of unspent money down, because there's not much point keeping money sitting in the Treasury, not doing anything useful. So that's that. Briefly now onto the state of the economy. That has suffered particularly from me moving away to study at university. Essentially, contributions were of course terminated at the last meeting, and the total unpaid contributions debt, which came to £20, was written off. This has hit both the size of the GDP and the government income, but there are many other factors affecting the total size of the GDP in the private sector. For example, Capital Brewery, their sales have been down considerably. Same applies for the Adamic Express. And the sales of these companies are down in many ways because of the difficulties of organising business when I'm not here much of the time. So the total GDP was £50.58. That was down 57.48%. from previous year. I believe last year we had a GDP of something like £118. So size of the economy halved not good news. There's a substantial recession. GDP per capita £1.49. Just quickly by industry, the alcohol industry accounted for £11.81, media industry £5.36, and the finance industry £1.41. Unemployment at the end of the year stood at 15.625%, which is in fact down. So that's the financial report. Any points members would like to make about that? Any questions or comments as to that?
Well, we could always start the contributions as and when, couldn't we?
Yes, the Minister for Finance makes an excellent point. We will certainly keep our options open, and whoever becomes the Minister of Finance in the new administration, I'll be talking with them to see what options we have available to us. Any other comments? Right, in that case I motion to advance the agenda. All those in favour? All those opposed? The motion carries. Next up, Decree 52. No, sorry, 52. This is a very short piece of legislation which I signed last night, which creates a new territory for us in the Selly Oak area of Birmingham. It is the term-time residence of the Admiral of our Imperial Fleet in Dorset, Emily Simpson, and her various housemates who've all kindly signed up and will be getting involved in the new administration, I believe. So a core part of what we're going to be doing going forward will likely be from this new territory, which we've called Paternia. So all this decree does is create this as a colony. That's on a provisional basis, because as we'll soon come to Act 42, that will actually transform that colony into a province. So it is only existing as a colony for less than 24 hours, but we decided to get this part out of the way last night, and then it will go to full provincial status once this act is passed. But yeah, any comments on Decree 52? Any questions? And indeed, if anyone wants to table a motion to have it overturned, now would also be the time for that.
Nope.
Okay, in that case, I motion to advance the agenda. All those in favour? All those opposed? We move now to Act 42. This is the one of the main aspects of this meeting, because this is the legislation which will actually enact the transition. It's called the Empire of Adamia Act 2017, and it reorganises all of the provinces and colonies to facilitate the move of the ruling council to a new location. So, to briefly go through it, there will be 4 provinces, 3 in Selly Oak, and 1 here, which will be a province known as Greater Titania, and it will be a single province consisting of the current provinces of Titania, Maternia, Primoria and Watertopia. So those 4 provinces will become a single province, and they will still have ruling council representation in the new administration, and I will be most likely the one who will be representing these provinces in the new administration.
Question.
Yes, the Council of Maternia.
Obviously, one of the provinces is where you live.
Yes, that is the residence of myself and my legal advisor, Sir Alex Helliker. Is going to be one of the new provinces, yes.
Are the other 2 local? I know they're in Birmingham, but I don't...
Yes, the other 2 are also very nearby. So I was going to list them all off, but the 4 provinces will be Greater Titania, mine and Sir Alex's residence, which will be Circasia, the residence of my former flatmates from last year, which is Illyria. May have heard me mention it before, it's still continuing, and this new colony which I mentioned in the last item, Paternia. they will be the 4 provinces.
Mm.
The current provinces here, so Titania and Maternia and so forth, will exist as counties within the province of Greater Titania. As for the landed nobles, I've tried to give preference to those of you who held government positions, namely prime ministers and deputy prime ministers. Essentially, we have the Emperor Mother as Countess of Titania, Sir Paul McKenna as Count of Maternia, Prince Jake as Count of Primoria, and Madame Julie Foster as Countess of Watertopia. There's some more rearranging of the lower level divisions which I won't get into too much detail of. My way will actually be become a colony, so downgraded in a sense, but it will basically be given more autonomy in the same way that up until this point, our Birmingham territories were operating under. We think that given the difficulty in representing that area, it makes more sense for them to just give them autonomy and let them get on with whatever it is they do. So yeah, like I said, Illyria, which is the colony I founded last year, that will become one of the provinces, as will my new residence, Circatia. Out of the regions, yes, the regions. Currently we have 2 regions of Adamia up here. West Adamia, which is Maternia, Watertopia and Primoria, and we have East Adamia, which is Titania and my way. Under the proposals here, instead of East and West Adamia, we'll have North and South Adamia, which makes sense. North Adamia will simply be Greater Titania and my way, so basically everything we've got up here, and South Adamia will simply be all of the Birmingham provinces. And finally, section 4 of this, we're instructing the Imperial Institute of History to define the time period from the original foundation day up until today as the first era, and all time lasting indefinitely from today until a further the further statute changes that would be the second era. So yeah, that's my overview of the Empire of Adamia Act 2017. Are there any questions, any comments that the members would like to make? Yes, the Councillor.
What happens when you finish at university?
That is a very good question. Once that time comes around, there'll probably be another process similar to the one that we've had in the past few months, where again we'll look at how we can rearrange things. The possibility of the council coming back here isn't ruled out. It could happen, depending on where we are in 3 years' time, or things may be scaled down completely. Obviously, once I finish university, I'll then have going into a full-time job, and it's quite likely that maybe activities would move online then, or maybe they'll just be scaled back. It could see a return of the absolute monarchy that we had in the very early days of Adamia. So we're keeping all the options open, but that's relatively far off. It's about 3 years away, so we're not worrying too much about it. Any other questions or comments? Right, seeing that there are none, then I hereby motion that this Ruling Council passes the Empire of Adamia Act 2017. All those in favour? And all those opposed? And plus counting the vote given in advance by Crown Prince Daniel, I think we have the ayes to the right numbering 6 and those to the left numbering 0, so the ayes have it. The Empire of Adamia Act is passed and will come into effect shortly when I sign it, and that will be the moment at which the transition takes effect, so stick around for that if you want to witness that momentous moment. But first, we move now, I'm moving now to the plenary section, just to give a quick overview of how we're going to tackle this. I have my speech here. This speech does actually dissolve the legislature, so it is going to be last. So I will invite the members here to make any, to perhaps offer their thoughts on where we are currently. I will start just by giving the formal aspects of the plenary of a legislature, which is essentially this term, the 5th Legislature of Council, lasted from, it was originally supposed to last from August 2017 to July 2018, and has been, is due to be dissolved early, such that it will end in October 2017 instead. Covered 3 meetings of Council, and in that time passed 2 Acts of Council, those being the Government Ministries Act 2017 and the Empire of Adamir Act 2017. So yeah, I'll now open the floor. This is of course the last chance that, could well be the last chance that any of you have to speak at a ruling council meeting. So I'll briefly open the floor, but of course don't need to feel pressured if no one has any thoughts. I have plenty right here. So again, the floor is open. Seeing that there are none, I'll move then to my own speech.
Do you want this filming?
It's filming now, it's been recording.
Oh, I didn't realise.
At least I think it's filming now.
Just double check.
Yeah, it is.
I hope I answered out stupid.
No, I don't think so, yeah, to be honest. Ladies and gentlemen, as we approach the end of our business of the day, it is my solemn duty to bring the 5th Legislature, and indeed the ruling council as we know it, to a close, which I will now do in giving this prepared speech. I will start at the very beginning. It was approaching the end of the Easter holidays in 2013, and I was in Year 10 studying GCSE history. I had homework assignment to write an essay on about how British society changed between 1955 and 1975. I was carrying out some research, the definition of society on Wikipedia, and I came across this unusual subject, micronations, tiny countries which anyone can make, with everything a larger, more recognised country would have. I was immediately captivated by the notion of creating and running an entire country. I'd always loved playing strategy games on a computer, controlling armies and kingdoms, and as children, me and my brothers would often make up silly role-play games. Some of you may remember Jakeland. But this was different. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people around the world were making their own nations, and they weren't just pretending. This was for real. And so, naturally, I was soon thinking about creating my own micronation, thinking about what it might look like. It's obviously a bizarre concept to introduce to most people, so I knew I'd have to start small. On the 13th of April 2013, I came here on a usual weekly visit and decided to try to claim my first patch of land, a back garden. Unfortunately, I don't have any resources I needed to make a flag, so I went home and claimed a slightly smaller patch of land instead, which was my bedroom. 5 square metres, population 1. Paper flag, drawn using coloured pencils, attached to the blinds with safety pins. Border sign written in permanent marker, propped up by the user manual for the old Nokia brick I had at the time. Humble beginnings indeed. I started to spread the word about the Empire amongst my online friends, and the first person to sign up to become a citizen was a certain Sir Alex Helliker. Sir Alex went on to become my legal advisor, and not only that, also ended up becoming my housemate at the University of Birmingham. So in a strange roundabout way, he's now probably going to play a key role in the new administration after being a citizen all these years. So I had a flag, and my first citizens were starting to trickle in. I wanted more, much more. I started a blog, which we now know as our much beloved national newspaper, the Adamic Express. I started writing my first laws, creating the original version of the Supreme Directive, setting out my powers as the Emperor and the rights of citizens. Like most legislation written by 15-year-olds with no legal experience, our original Supreme Directive was riddled with inconsistent sections, ambiguous sections, and a healthy amount of complete nonsense. But Sir Alex ratified it, and 6 days after foundation, the process of setting up the Empire was complete, and was now ready to go bigger. First people I had to get on board were my brothers. They heard about what I was doing, and were thinking about setting up their own nations. At lunch, on the 21st of April, I persuaded them that we should all work together. And so we all came back here later that day, this time with everything we would need to create a flag, and you can still see that very same flag just through there in the conservatory. And so Titania was born. Before long, whole properties were joining us. Eternia, Primoria, or the Adamic Imperial Province as it was then known. Meanwhile, I was busy creating all the elements of government that we would need to succeed in the long term. The Adamic army was created to secure our new borders, although, admittedly back then, it was only consisted of Prince Jake and Sir Matthew armed with plastic swords. Treasury was created to store our funds, and a system of nobility was put in place to govern the new provinces. We're also taking our first steps onto the world stage of micronations. And first contacted the Prince of Monovia, Harry Fitzpatrick, who put me in contact with the Emperor of Austrasia, Jonathan Augustus, who, as some of you know, turns out is likely to be my 11th cousin. Jonathan got us into the Grand Unified Micronational, a great forum where I could meet a whole range of other micronational leaders from around the world. Interacting with them made me realise ways in which I could improve Adamia. For a couple of months, I stood outside in Imperial Square and made my first speech to the people of the Empire. It was quite an important speech, because it was then that I announced that democracy would be coming to Adamia. Ruling as an absolute monarch had its advantages, but I thought it would be more fun to give other people a say. So, the original Supreme Directive was scrapped, and I began writing a new one, this time including ruling council, and I directly elected Prime Minister. On the 30th of June, the day we now celebrate as Democracy Day, we held our first ever referendum, and the result was that the ruling council came into being. Held its first meeting the following weekend, on the infamous pink blanket just underneath the 2 trees outside. And before long, we're having our first elections, and of course, the Emperor Mother emerged victorious as our first ever Prime Minister. Soon things began to settle down into a steady pattern of council meetings, weekly at first, but people found this overbearing, so we soon switched to monthly meetings instead. My skills at writing laws were improving, and towards the end of 2013 I went back over everything I'd been written so far and drastically improved it. This began a cycle of constant improvement and increased professionalism in the way we conduct government business in Adamia, which has led to the very sophisticated system we have today. 2014 was one of the best years we ever had. Watertopia and My Way had just joined us, and the Empire has also started to take off at school. Amongst my year group, more and more people were starting to talk about Adamia. People ask me about it quite regularly, many of whom signed up as citizens. This was the golden age of the Adamic army operating at our base in Astley Meadow, albeit not without a little resistance from a certain one-man insurgency which we soon dealt with. Around February time, I was invited by a teacher to give a class presentation about Adamia and micronations in general, which was fairly well received. Then came our first anniversary in April. The first Foundation Day celebrations were held here with the now traditional buffet and speech. It was also the day of the ill-fated Andromeda 1 rocket mission, which infamously failed to get off the ground in rainy conditions. A few months later I finished school and very quickly lost contact with many of my former soldiers. Astley Meadow was soon abandoned. However, this loss was compensated by the arrival of a new player on the scene, Will McCracken, representing a crippled empire in Devon, which was a shadow of its former glory and seeking new leadership. We took them on board as the colony of Borealia, and they soon contributed much to Adamia, building a furnace which could melt aluminium and copper. And for a while, Sir Will was very influential in Adamia. Back here we were focusing on finance and the economy. The contribution scheme was supplemented by taxes from the sale of wine and advertising on my YouTube channel, bringing in a healthy stream of revenue. We had a far more robust economy than most micronations ever achieved, and it allowed us to invest in new projects, such as the Air Force's remote-controlled quadcopter and the populous Imperial monument in the conservatory, which we unveiled in October 2014. We finally got the rocket working with the Andromeda 3 mission, another huge moment for us. the daimyo started to become influential within the world of micronations, so much so that I was elected chair of the Grand Unified Micronational in September 2014. With a huge amount of activity in 2014, things started to settle down from 2015 onwards. College turned out to be nowhere near as fertile of a recruiting ground as school had, although we did get Durnland as our Air Force base in South Yorkshire. We also had our first overseas colony after the American territory of Adamic Columbia joined the Empire, led by Sir Grant Hawkins. Our internal politics was changing, with the creation of the moderate and Labour parties in July 2015 to challenge a much older Liberal party. The Emperor Mother soon afterwards won her first successive term to the office of Prime Minister, giving the moderates the upper hand in the first battle of this new political landscape. Towards the end of the year, Daimyo had another crowning achievement when travel writer Johnny Blair became our first ever tourist, a rare honour for micronations. Of course, as time went by, achievements slowed down. By 2016, Daimyo was starting to decline. Only weeks after I made my first and only visit to the colony, Borealia voted to leave the Empire in an independence referendum at the start of August of that year, followed shortly afterwards by Adamic Columbia. There was some excitement after Sir Paul McKenna finally toppled the moderates to become the first Labour Prime Minister, but I started university and the pace of government activity slowed to a crawl as a result, and the economy plunged into recession. And so this brings us to our present situation. We find ourselves having to embrace new horizons in order to prosper once again. But we will never forget everything that we have achieved here. For all our troubles over the past year or two, I still earnestly believe that the Empire of Daimyo is the most successful and influential micronation this side of Watford Gap service station. There are thousands of micronations out there, coming and going all the time. Some don't even last a week. Many of those that do last are nothing more than debating chambers, a legislature masquerading as a nation but with no resources to control. Micronations that last this long and have as many real-world achievements as we have are rare. A functioning economy, a model rocket flight, tourist visit, a sophisticated political system, over 100 citizens, the chairmanship of a hugely respected international organisation, Foundation Day. Granted, so much of this was all my idea, but it still would not have been possible without your support. It was you who came together and formed the identity of a new culture, a new nation. Every time I do a speech like this, I reiterate the pride I feel for this mad project, and I say it because it is true. Some of you have contributed more than others, but those of you who have just paid your contributions and listened to what I have to say made a difference just by being here. That being said, I do want to pay particular tribute to those of you who did put that extra effort in, because without you the last 4 years would have been much more boring. Her Imperial Highness the Emperor Mother, Prime Minister for 3 years, made Foundation Day and New Year's Buffet and all these other events possible, working tirelessly behind the scenes. And Sir Paul McKenna and Prince Jake, who also both served as Prime Minister and didn't mind me pestering for signatures for obscure documents too much. Sir Christopher Hall, our maverick one-man opposition, who always had something to say when he did show up. And of course, my grandfather, Sir Reginald Hall, over 4 years of continuous service as our Minister of Finance, as well as being Deputy Prime Minister for much of that time. Your thoughtful and practical advice has been invaluable to us. So again, thank you all so much. I hope this has taught you something about politics and the way countries work. You'll still be part of the Empire and we'll continue to celebrate Foundation Day here, but at least on the politics front.
For now, it's time to hand over to a new generation of Adamians, and I'd like to wish the new administration the best of luck picking up the reins. The sun may have set on the first era of Adamic history, but the story is far from over. With that, I'd like to announce that the 5th Legislature of the Ruling Council is hereby dissolved. Once again, thank you, seek wisdom and honour, and long live the Empire.
Let's see what time it is first. It is 22 minutes past 6, and as of right now, for this signature, the Empire of Daimyo is now completely transformed. That is the end of the first era and beginning of the second.
Let me take a picture of you signing it.
It's too late, I've signed it.
I'll pretend to sign it now. There.
It's the 28th of October. I'll have Roman numerals later. So,